our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to fight for our freedom.
Like, the strategy doesn't make sense at face value. Let me propose this question to you guys. Bernie Sanders and the squad being nice to Joe Biden, did that put Joe Biden to the left? Did that make him support $2,000 checks?
Hell no.
Did that make him support Medicare for all? Hell, dude, they said anyone who said it should lose all credibility. They said we're gonna put Joe Biden to the left. You guys realize he moved to the right on healthcare, right?
Right.
But he supported a public option, which is pretty trash, by the way, but it's still preferable over our current system. Mm-hmm. He backed away from that. He backed away from that, and now he's a supporter of a Cobra. I'm gonna see if I can find this article because I want to read the number because there was an article by I think Andrew.
So when they say Nick, when they say he's not Trump, really?
Yeah.
Tell me where. Tweets maybe, but I mean he's backtracked on minimum wage. He's backtracked on $2,000 checks. Now he's backtracking on this. He's issuing 31 new drilling permits. Like when is this not Trump happen? When is this not Trump gonna happen? Is my question.
I think kids are still in cages. I mean, look, what's going on? And what about the kids that are in cages that are in Texas right now that are probably freezing to death?
They're literally freezing. They're literally freezing. RJ, what are you about to chime in with?
I said, like, I hate to, shit on Bernie, but, because Bernie has opened our eyes a lot to politics too. But in terms of the political ideology and in terms of the policies Bernie Sanders stands for, we're right lockstep with him on that. But in terms of how you lead a movement and in terms of how you lead a political ideology in government, I mean, Bernie Sanders as a leader hasn't necessarily been that good, especially if you look at how he dropped out of the presidential race. I mean, automatically, kissing the ring to Biden right when he dropped out, automatically co-signing on all the incrementalist measures that he's been doing. And if you look at it now, like when you get Republican Senator Kennedy basically defend your supporters more than you do in that committee, I mean, that's I'm not going to repeat what Senator Kennedy said because we all know what he said, but to me, I think it's pretty bad. And even some of us on the left, when Joe Manchin went out and said, hey, I'm not going to support Neera Tanden, and we all know Bernie was going to do it because he's a Democrat now. But I think I think it's just disheartening, and if Bernie is willing to be for Biden, just going to stick being a Democrat, what do you expect the squad to do? Because that's their hero. That's who inspired them to get into politics. That's the one who endorsed them to get them in office. So it flows all the way down to Justice Dems, other organizations. Why I think DSA is starting to calm down too. So I think we're getting to this paradigm of, okay, we're just going to keep doing what the Democrats say. It's fair and free to do it in the primary, but as soon as a general come, you got to be responsible. You can't be stupid. You have to play your cards right. And I just don't disagree with that, because if you look at the right, they don't give a fuck. They will say anything, do anything.
The neoliberals don't give a fuck. Look at Joe Manchin. Like, do you think Joe Manchin is doing kind of like, what if I piss off the Democratic Party if I vote against? They don't give a fuck. Like in the same way with Joe Lieberman during the Obama era when he killed the public option, they don't give a fuck because they fight for what they stand for. I'll let you finish, RJ. Sorry to be interrupted, brother.
No, you're right about the conservative Dems too. It's just disheartening for the leftists to not show some backbone here. Like even my own parents sometimes they say I would love to vote for a progressive, but none of them have any backbone. They don't stand up, and I can't disagree with them because they're right.
Well, I think that, and I know maybe some people on this call may have this strategy. The inside outside game is flawed, because if you're not a person who's strong enough to stand up to these people, and we have yet to see one. AOC went down in flames. Bernie, as we're seeing him go down in flames, and it's breaking all of our hearts to see him do these things. But does these types of things, this kind of proves to me, or proves the point that I made about a video, which is the left movement can't have a politician as its leader. And it's several reasons, but one of the main reasons, the top reason I give, is because a movement leader has to have the movement as the priority over everything.
Exactly.
Your party, but if you're a politician, your allegiance always to the party first. And you saw that when he decided to leave the movement and go ahead and pick Obama, option and drop out of the race. Like, this is the reason why we can't have that. We can't just galvanize around an election. We need to galvanize around the issues. So, I'm not saying that the left movement needs one singular leader, but having politicians as our leader, I just don't think is a good strategy. One, having a politician as a leader in a duopoly. It's not like it's an even playing field. And then we say, okay, a politician will do. But you're talking about a politician in a duopoly, which basically means it's set up for a Democrat or Republican to win. So I just think
he wasn't right. He should have ran. Even if he would have ran his Green Party, you still would have been like, man.
Yeah, but the problem with Bernie is he doesn't want to be like Ralph Nader. And it's a good segue because the thing is on the left, like Bernie did the same shit in 2016. I mean, it was worse. I mean, to be fair, Biden treated him way better than Hillary, just to get that out of the way. But even back in 2016, when hey, a lot of people say, hey, Bernie, fuck Hillary, run third party. And even Jesse Ventura, independent, whatever you want to feel about him, he was ready to endorse Bernie. Hey, if you do third party, I'll break my norm. I'll vote for you.
He said, no, I'm you would give him the spot on the ticket. Go ahead.
Oh, really? Really? Okay, yeah. And so
that's just another example.
Yeah, and so he said, hey, what are you gonna do, Bernie? Let me know, because I got my people. We get your people. We can get this thing going. We could pull a fucking Nader. We could pull a Perot and fuck shit up, and it would have been fun.
He partied that motherfucker.
And so and Bernie said, no, I'm gonna support Secretary Hillary Clinton, and that was the end of the story.
All right, so I want to bring Jackie in here because she's trying to get me canceled in the chat, like always. You guys know what time it is. She said she's here. Jackie, where you at? How you feeling?
Fool, I've been here the whole time. What do you mean? You didn't know I was here?
No, because I remember, and he said, he was like, yo, I'm going to get something to eat real quick. I'm like, I don't know what happened. I was really thinking, like, I don't know what happened to her. I didn't know what was going on. But can we not get me canceled today? I mean,
if you would just read the messages.
Man,
literally all I asked.
I told you guys I need a producer. I'm like struggling here.
That's like, literally what I've been trying to do, but you have not been paying attention.
I know. Okay? And then I realized, like, bro, I ain't been watching the chat. Now I saw your chat messages, and I saw the other chat. I'm like, damn, I'm gonna get canceled for real. So, with that said, now we got you chiming in. Now we have Jackie that can set the mood. I think that's the proper way to put it. I don't know what like mood. Because I was trying to say a nice way of having the angry black woman who would. I'm just playing. I'm not trying to get canceled today. I ain't trying to get canceled today.
Hashtag cancel Nick.
But I think so. We was ripping on. I'm trying to see what Jackie got and get Jackie chime in on here. You got any takes what we talking about, or what about the Texas storm?
Questions to the one female on the panel, because that's not mansplaining at all.
See, look, I'm gonna get in trouble.
This is why you constantly
I'm gonna get in trouble.
How about Jackie talk about what's going on with COVID and stuff, because she's very knowledgeable about that.
I also want to ask her about the storm, because I know she got some feelings about that.
About what?
The liberal reaction to the storm. I'm mad that you missed. I'm mad that you wasn't here on that first part of the segment.
Literally was. COVID. I unmuted right after. Actually, I was unmuted when Rome asked to let his camera in.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
What's your take?
Yep.
Well, this is going off the rails now, huh?
A little bit.
What's your thoughts so far? What do you want to chime in on? What shall we do? Oh yeah, like RJ said, COVID, Texas storm. What should we do? I want to get you involved.
Okay, so my thoughts are pretty much the same as everyone else on the Texas storm. When something happens, if there's a natural disaster, and your first thought isn't what can we do to help these people, it's you deserve it because you voted for the other team. Fuck you.
Straight up.
If you do not have the empathy to help out other human beings, let alone fellow citizens of the same country, but fuck country lines, like human beings are hurting. It doesn't matter why. Help them. And then in the aftermath, we can figure out what happened and we can fix it. But right now, they need help. Help them. And
That's how you get
meanwhile,
their vote.
what did Joe Biden do? He waited till the power had almost completely come back on before he was like, oh, yeah, I guess we'll send something. That is more reckless than George W. Bush and Hurricane Katrina, because at least he
That's a
flew
good
out
point.
there. Biden has no plans to get on a plane.
I heard
Bam.
someone say this is like Biden's Katrina.
No, it's worse because George W. Bush actually flew to Mississippi. Where's Biden? He's playing video games with his granddaughter. Like, seriously?
Mario Kart.
It's
Yeah,
so
exactly.
it's so easy to shit on Ted Cruz, and he deserves it. But that has provided a great shield for like the failure of our system on this. This is what I talk about. I want to talk my main theme. I want to talk about the failure of the system, and the common theme for my show is how we live in a failed state. I cover many examples of this, and I mean it's not really hard to look. America's failed response to essentially every single disaster in the last 20 years show this. We just talked about Hurricane Katrina. That's just another one. Capitalism is a failed system because it's not designed to maintain a stable society during the worst events. And then what the capitalists say, well, they're not really a blight on capitalism because COVID-19, how are we supposed to stop that from happening? That is literally the merit of what makes the economic system work or not. It's like if you have an economic system that can't handle a crisis, it can't handle COVID-19, it can't handle a winter storm because your neoliberal policies of deregulation, which once again, they attacking Republicans on it. They're like, oh, this is why we gotta vote Democrats, ignoring the fact that Democrats support deregulation too. All your favorite leaders.
It was actually the Democrats who did the deregulation. It was
Oh,
Clinton
really?
who deregulated Wall Street, who did the it was the
Oh,
Clinton
I thought you were talking about
administration
Texas.
who actually
Yeah, I know
got through
that.
with it.
Yeah, that's so that would drive me crazy about the liberal hypocrisy because they will also say, and this is also I wanted to discuss regarding the Cenk tweet because Cenk tweet and the liberal and all the liberals that was just one example because I pulled that one because that was the only one I had time to respond to, but that was the overall thing for everyone. Now the same people who were repeating this talking point, which, dude, I'm gonna be honest, I think it's an effective attack on the Republicans. It's a good attack, but I mean, I think you're a piece of shit if you use it. Let me be clear. I think you're a piece of shit if you use it, but I do think it's a good attack on Republicans. But it also showed your whole ass. But the same people who were saying that talking point, the same people like Cenk Uygur, who was attacking people for voting Republican, these are the same people who would get mad at me when I said I'm not voting for Joe Biden because of what he did for the Black community. So what's the difference? What's the difference? So if you're mocking Texas because Texas voted for Republicans or whatever, and this is why their situation, are you gonna mock the Black community for voting for Democrats because Democrats destroyed the Black community? Barack Obama tamed Black wealth. Joe Biden read the crime bill, wrote the bankruptcy bill, and now he had no plan to give relief checks to people. Are you gonna mock Black? Because that's why I hear. That's why I hear. Am I wrong on that?
I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, it's funny when you have. It's funny too. It's amazing how the Democrats work. So you make us vote for a vice president that threw us in jail, and make us vote for a president who writ the laws to throw you in jail. It's amazing how that works.
And I want people to realize when you look at Texas, people are only surviving because of mutual aid. That's it. Our system and our government has failed us. Capitalism has failed us. And this is what neoliberals won't admit. Like they can come to the only conclusion they will admit because the only thing they care about is only conservatives. So like, oh, this is what happened when you vote Republican. Once again, as Jackie brilliantly brings up, that was Bill Clinton. That was Democrats that were pushing deregulation. That literally Center of American Progress. That's one thing that was all about, deregulation. Once again, going back to narrow tangent, it's very relevant. Now, to give credit to AOC, Beto, I just saw a tweet. AOC officially raised $3.2 million. Once again, I'll give AOC a lot of criticism, but I'll give a lot of props on that. But most importantly, the local organizing in the area for stepping up. And I think people have to come to the conclusion. I really hope this is the conclusion people are coming to because of the COVID crisis, the winter crisis, and the fact that our government literally abandoned us, that we have to, before we completely overthrow the system, we have to have much more comprehensive mutual aid. It's something that we have to focus on. I saw this tweet a little bit earlier. I want to let's see if I can find it. There we go. I got it. I'll pull it up for the stream to see it here. But this tweet pretty much represents what I think the mindset of Americans should be right now. This is a pretty viral tweet. A lot of you guys probably seen it already. But you see, the government does not care. We, the people, must help each other. And I'm very happy this tweet is doing numbers because I want people to realize this is what we have to do now. Like, we can't rely on the government to even do the basics, like provide relief during the COVID crisis, to help out during the winter crisis. Once again, only thing that's going on in mutual aid. I'll bring in Rome on this one. What's your thoughts?
Man, where do I start?
So I didn't even put you on the spot, brother.
Yeah, that's my whole thing. Like, look, there is nothing that this government is doing to help you. Like, even if we get them $2,000 checks or $1,400 checks, it's been so long that shit don't even matter. It's gonna get ate up by everything. Like, you won't even probably touch it by the bills that's auto pay on your cards and whatnot. And a lot of people get in their houses. Like, I'm seeing devastating things, and they don't have this infrastructure like a place like Michigan have. We built for the winter. But when I'm looking at this destruction, I see, I see death and I see hurt. But I also see, a lot of hope out of this, and I hope that people get their ass together and really do something for their communities. I know it's a lot of people, like, we're gonna have to really word this shit right when we dealing with these people that hate socialism, hate commies. When we telling them that they are socialists by heart, socialists by nature, this is what we gotta break down during this shit. Like, we gotta get down there, man. That's all I'm gonna say. We gotta get down there, help them, and let them know all you have to help you right now is the fucking commies that you've been trolling online for 30 fucking years. Because when it comes down to it, we are the ones that really want you to have these things. Like, we don't want you to go to war. We want you to have your infrastructure. We want you to have these we're not against you. We don't want this big government, whatever the fuck these conspiracy theories is, but we really need to push socialism, communism on these people. Because, not to say like, all right, this is time to, throw me the alley-oop, we're gonna fucking slam dunk it. Not to fucking, be so heartless about it. But it's the fucking truth. That's what we gotta do.
I can kind of add on to what Rome was saying. I think the best strategy too in states like Texas, Mississippi, Louisiana, we have not only a higher amount of population of Black people, Hispanic, but also a lot of white working class that's either been ignored by the Democratic Party or pissed off by the Republican Party. This is the first step we have to do. I do agree we have to fucking wreck the Republican Party shit, but don't funnel those people back to the Democrats. All the Democrats gonna do is, oh, we'll see, you're with us now. Things are better. Give it to us. We can fix the problem. But we know 4 years later, nothing gets done. Then those very same people that got funneled into the Democratic Party, they go back to the Republican Party and become Trump people. It's what happened under the Obama administration. So my point is we as leftists, what we have to do is whoever leads the Republican Party, grab them. If they're for one thing we're for, hey, let's work with them on that issue. Let's get them together, because if we prevent them from getting to the Democratic Party and we get a bigger base, we can weaponize that against the Democrats. That's kind of the outsider strategy. That's what I believe we should do. Because if you look in Texas right now, the infrastructure, because I'm in engineering, so like the housing, the way they're built is different from in the north. I'm from Michigan, so we have homes and infrastructure built for colder climates. In Texas, they don't have it that way. So when you have mass amounts of snow, because snow has a lot of weight, also too with water, they don't have the type of insulation you would have not only to shelter to keep things warm in a colder climate. So when you have a big snowstorm, ice storm in a Texas area, not only is the infrastructure compromised, but the insulation gets wet, it goes through the ceiling, and then you get water damage throughout your entire house. That's what I've seen in Texas. So that's a huge problem you're gonna have, you know. And also too with the homeless crisis going on right now, there's one major issue I saw. So Texas and many of these southern states, what they do is to avoid the federal regulators, they create their own power and electric grids. That way the state legislatures and the state government controls how they dole out the power, who they want to work with in terms of the energy contractors, and that's a big problem. And also, too, to be fair to Biden, he did send some money in federal aid to Texas, but the Texas power legislature and the Texas state government is blocking that aid from getting there. And so that's kind of the main issue we have right now is that this in order for this Texas government to maintain their grip on power, they're basically scapegoating leftists and they're scapegoating the federal government saying, see, well, we didn't want the commies to come in and control what we do here, so we have to block everything out. That's just what
we gotta push for nationalizing every damn near everything. Fucking airports, why not? Because it don't go like, bro, like we gotta really let people know if you just stop, nothing happens. Like everything stops. Like they might have to come to your fucking door to drag you to work type shit. You are the power, you are everything that they say that they are. These politicians aren't anything without you. And if we just work together and stop working for these motherfuckers, stop carrying the water for people like Joe Biden with a racist career, we can get somewhere, man.
I like what Ron was saying when it comes to nationalizing these utilities, because there were stories that was coming out how capitalists are already profiting off of this tragedy. How energy executive companies like, this is gonna be literally the jackpot for us. And I always find it weird when people they pretend that the concept of environmental racism is super hard to understand, right? Cause check the story out. I'll put out my stream here. Very predictable stuff. Texas power outage highlights inequalities for minority neighborhoods, which once again, very predictable, because we are the ones who always bear the brunt of these issues. Like anytime there's massive weather events, we're the ones who face the most issues. Now, if you look at the articles, this what makes it worse when you actually dive in. Let's put it here. So what it was doing, the Electric Reliability Council of Texas, they was managing the flow of power, and they were trying to make sure that they manage it properly. And it was siphoning power in some areas and make sure some areas have some power as well. But if you look at, as they cover here, if you look at the urban and downtown areas, the most affluent people, they will usually get the most electricity. But meanwhile, when you look at the people who was exempt from the blackouts, it was underprivileged neighborhoods. They usually had the worst responses. And this was something that was happening throughout the country because there was a lot of rolling blackouts in multiple states. Texas just got hit with the worst of them. But that black community was always the less priority that the government put out there. They want to make sure they protect the rich, make sure the people who live comfortable lives, they're comfortable. Meanwhile, we are pushed to the side. And that's what we're seeing with the response to the Texas power grid. So let's see what Twitch is saying.
Okay, can you please address in-prison labor?
Yeah, I'll
see that message one more time.
I'll literally just about read that out. Why aren't leftists? I just see that message a few times. Why aren't leftists talking about our revolution supporting neoliberal Democrat Karen over the progressive candidate Gary Chambers in the race to replace Cedric Richmond in Louisiana? So is your name actually Karen, or are you being hilarious? I haven't looked that much into the story. Let's see. I'm gonna type in Cedric Richmond. Oh yeah, I know who Cedric Richmond is. Now I think about it. That's the dude that gave that speech where he called out that public official for shopping during a crisis. Let me Google. I know exactly what you're talking
about. Cedric Richmond is the Louisiana rep, and he lives in a district, or he governs a district that has a
I'm thinking someone else. Go ahead, copy.
Yeah, he governs a district that covers a district that has a chemical plant, and this chemical plant is so bad for the area that there's a section of where he represents called Cancer Town, because that area has cancer rate 50 times the national average.
I actually did follow that. I was not too familiar.
He's the most fossil fuel corporate Democrat friendly person in or was in Congress at the time. He was the most corporate friendly fossil fuel Democrat. Yeah, he's awful.
So our revolution is they support a neoliberal.
Which Our Revolution? Our Revolution, the National or LA?
I'm just
No, I was asking Jackie, is it National or LA, or who asked the question?
Who asked the question?
Yeah.
in prison labor. He just said our
In prison
revolution.
labor.
He didn't specify
Okay.
exactly was it national or whatever. But once again, I actually haven't heard about that. That's actually pretty crazy.
Yeah, it doesn't say like he asked the question about 45 times, but he's not specific about exactly what race, just the race.
My guess would be national.
Yeah, that was my assumption. My assumption was
It's the National Party. So the question is, if the National, what do we think about the National Party supporting a corporate Democrat over a progressive in a race? And it's the same thing we say about the Justice Democrats, the same thing we say about the Sunrise Movement. We have these organizations that start out great, they're leftist organizations, and then when they decide, hey, let's try to make this team with these corporatists, it never fails that they get infected and then we lose them. Like I'm not gonna say we, but it's my philosophy. This inside-outside game will always turn leftists, make them less leftist. There's no way to do that.
Great point.
No way to join corruption and not be corrupt. It's preposterous. You can't join a team who is in bed with fossil fuels, for example, and then expect that team to be down with the Green New Deal. It doesn't make any sense to me.
There was a great tweet. Let me say that, I'll let you chime in, RJ. There was a great tweet that I saw from communist Twitter. It actually went pretty viral. And he said, and then on point. I wish I remember the name. It'll take me forever to search for it, so please forgive me. But the tweet was, Bernie Sanders, LC, and the squad has done more to push the definition of what it means to be socialist to the right than they did to drag the Democratic Party to the left. And I was like, damn. Like, that's literally what they did. There's a lot of people that call themselves socialists. There's a lot of people that claim they're anarchists and all that stuff. But then they apologize for Joe Biden. The only thing they did, Bernie Sanders and AOC, what they did is they pushed the definition of what it means to be a socialist and communist to the right, instead of actually bringing people to what a real socialist and communist is. Sorry, I'll let you chime in now, RJ.
Yeah, I was going to say about the Our Revolution thing. Now, what these leftist organizations don't have compared to Democrats is if Democratic voters say, fuck you, Democratic Party, I'm not going to give you money, they just go to Wall Street, big tech, and that's how they get their money. Our Revolution, that you could make an argument, okay, they could do the same thing in silent, but what they usually do is, okay, if leftists are pissed off at us, we're going to go to the social Dems, we're going to go to the liberals, we're going to go to the political people to get money, and in order to get their money, they have to go to the right. So I think that's another argument too.
Yeah, I do agree with that, and I mean, all of these tactics that seem to be failing, all of these tactics that seem to not be coming up to par, is because, in my opinion, there's only one real way to get what we want, and that's a general strike. There's no other way. There's no other way. Like, you can't change a corrupt system by using the corrupt system to change it. That literally makes no sense.
You letting the police
investigate. I'm trying to lose weight, so let me go to McDonald's. Wait, it doesn't make any sense to me.
And then our left is so weak because I figured I got pushback for what you were saying, Compton J, because I remember me, my friend Beth, and a lot of people on Twitter, a lot of larger accounts, we was literally calling for a general strike. We literally reaching out to local. I'll reach out to people in KC10. I'll reach out to people in KC Sunrise. I mean, we did everything we possibly could. And this is where my criticism came of the progressive leaders. Because if we only people, like a general strike, and the criticism I got, they will say, how are you going to start a general strike? They were like, do you know how hard a general strike is to manage? This is how weak the left is in America. The left is a joke in America. Their argument legitimately was, we shouldn't advocate for a general strike because it's hard. And I'm like, bro, I don't give a fuck how hard it is. We should start right now. And we were saying this in the summer. And last summer, we were saying how, because there was reports how the homelessness crisis is going to get worse. It's going to get worse. People are going to freeze to death. People don't have food. And then while this is going on, Bernie and the squad pretend everything is just normal. We got to beat Trump. We were like, bro, we need a general strike. You guys are so focused on electoral politics. Fuck that shit. People are literally dying right now. You guys are leaving people behind. That is what we were saying. So we couldn't get a general strike started, because how you gonna get a general strike started without people with massive influence? Me with my 55,000 followers ain't shit. I mean, it's fun to brag about, I guess, but 55,000 followers is not shit. And when it comes to creating a general strike, you know what we need? We need Bernie Sanders with all his countless UN contacts, his massive email list, AOC's massive email list, all these organizations that can be started from the top, be like, all right, let's organize these people because we have a massive organization. And once again, even with that being done, it still will be hard. But there's literally zero chance of that happening unless we have someone with influence and power like Bernie Sanders leading the charge. And then we had stupid leftists that was getting mad at, like, oh, well, you saying that Bernie and the squad should advocate for a general strike? Why don't you do something? I'm like, I'm just some fucking guy in Kansas City. Like, what do you expect us to do? If anyone, AOC is by far, not even close, by far the most popular member in Congress, by far the most people that follow on Twitter. Imagine, and once again, we don't know, and people will have a hard time imagining this because our reality is different. But imagine while people was going hungry, while COVID was out of control, while we had hunger strike going on ICE, we had all this stuff going on, right? Imagine LC was constantly tweeting about the need for a general strike every day, calling and explaining why. Like, remember when she did that Twitch stream? Fucking like 500,000 people watching that. Imagine she did a Twitch stream with 500,000 people watching, all the corporate media, and she's spreading awareness about general strike, how they work, why we need one. So once again, people had no imagination. They was like, how are we gonna get that done? I'm like, bro, I got a million ways we can do it. It would be hard, but that's how we do that. That's how it will be done.
It's my philosophy.
Just look at
anybody.
Okay, Compton and then RJ after that, just so we have order. Compton, go ahead.
No, I would just say it's my philosophy. Anybody who's chiming in with negativity, to me, immediately doesn't have a seat at the table.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, okay, you're a leftist, and everything I'm bringing up as a tactic, all you have is a response on why we're doing it that way. What are you doing if you're not doing like you're not somebody I want to team up with, because you're going to be steady at every point questioning what's going to happen, questioning why are we doing this, questioning. It's like, get on board and push. We don't need you to get on the other side of the thing that we're trying to push forward and push us back. Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, chime in with a good idea. Hey, I think that's not going to work. This is my idea. You know what I'm saying? It's all in an effort to make it better, not to tear it down. And that's my opinion about those types of people. It don't matter what you put. It don't matter what you put up, and you see it a lot on Twitter. Oh, do this. Okay, I did that. Well, why not this? It's just a never ending. It's never ending. Nothing is ever good enough. And I feel, and it's also about this general strike. People think that. I don't think that things are to a point to where we're going to have a successful general strike right now. I don't see that until liberals are starting to get affected, until Trump supporters are starting to get affected, where they're saying, hey, actually, when Trump supporters start saying, hey, I'm an ally with the liberals against the Republicans and Democrats, I don't see us being ready for a general strike. And then my last point about a general strike, and this is about one of the podcasts on my channel, we're not ready for a general strike because this is the point he made. We're not ready for a general strike because we don't have we don't have revolutionary discipline. Like, anybody can run up on Twitter. He said this: the CIA can plant somebody on Twitter, run up and says something inflammatory that throws all of us off track. And then now we're all talking about this other crap instead of staying focused on the revolution. And that's where I'm saying we're not there yet. Until somebody can say some bull about Bernie, bull about AOC, and it doesn't take our eye off the ball, we're not ready for that. When we go ahead and follow that cheese, we follow that string, that thing that's meant to distract us. I just don't see us being ready, because a general strike, you got to be focused.
Yep.
You can't one day be off of it and then another day be on it. You got to be focused against these people.
I feel like that brings us full circle to the Cenk Uygur situation. When we were talking about forcing the vote, the aim was to get Medicare for all, and it became about Jimmy Dore versus Sam Cedar.
Yes.
Right.
Nobody gives a shit about either Jimmy Dore or Sam Cedar. We want people to have health care during a pandemic. If we can't get health care, we are never going to get it.
Perfect example, Jackie.
And
great example.
And I want, because I'm glad that Compton J and Jackie brought that up, and I'll let RJ chime in right after I bring this up, because the tactics we've seen the anti-force to vote left use, and then the same tactics we've seen with the left that will speak out against the general strike. Once again, I am not calling anyone CIA. I think that's I think that does. I hear you. But this is my point. I think that does more harm than good. But I think it's important to call out people who use CIA tactics. Because I think we just say you're CIA, they're like, no, you're CIA, no, you're CIA, no, and then all right, and then we go in the circle. Now, what I can explain to you though is that how you're actually using CIA points. Now let me pull this up on stream. Let me check my tab. This is the general instructions that the CIA used to do when it comes to disrupting leftist movements. And as we read this, I want you guys to consider the mindset of the force to vote left and the left that's against the general strike. Now, the first one, insist on doing everything through channels. Never permit shortcuts to be taken in order to expedite decisions. Now, what they highlight is the most important. Make speeches. Talk frequently as possible and at great lengths to illustrate your points, long anecdotes, personal experiences. Number 3, when personal, refers to all matters to committees. And once again, this is what we heard a lot from the people who apologize for our role in class. Oh, we got to make sure we're on this committee. We got to do this. We got to do that. We got to make sure we follow this organized structure. There's a long-term plan. Bring up irrelevant issues. Now, this is why I brought this up more importantly. Bring up irrelevant issues as frequently as possible. Now, that goes over what Jackie just mentioned. That's why that was bringing up Jimmy Dore all the time. Once again, am I calling Sam Cedar CIA? Nope, I don't got no evidence. But you acting like fucking CIA, bro. This is literally CIA shit. Haggle over precise wordings. Refer back to the matters decided upon the last meeting and tend to well, a lot of these things go over meetings. And number 7, advocate caution, be reasonable, and urge your fellow confederates, that look weird to me, to be reasonable and avoid haste. Now 7 is literally force to vote in a nutshell. Advise caution. They will say, "Oh, we can't do it because what if Medicare for all failed? We kept saying who gives a fuck." Then once we debunk that talking point, they go back to 4, bring up irrelevant issues. Well, you getting behind Jimmy Dore. That's why we can't do it. It's the same thing. And these patterns I see all the time. Like whenever we criticize legitimate issues of the Democratic Party, whenever we bring up the general strikes, whenever we bring up like direct action that will hurt the power structures, we see the so-called left, Sam Cedar left, they always trying to speak up against that. Now, I'll let RJ chime in. What you about to say, if you want to add on to that, or what you about to say earlier?
I was gonna say too before I get to my point. Nick, when you said that you don't like it when people say that they're CIA ops, well, you're not the one whose Twitter account got canceled like 10 times, like Rome. And as for you, Nick, all you agreed with Jimmy on was one issue, and then you became a Dore stand all of a sudden, like all over Twitter.
Yeah, I'm glad that you noticed. Because I'm like, people tried their best to drag me into this shit, bro. I barely ever talked about this. Like, before the vote was going on, and in my streams, I barely talked about it. I tweeted about it maybe twice, but there was people made a chart, and it was like, socialist MMA is on this side. And I'm like, what y'all talking about? Like, when you actually got people following you, it's like, and people say stuff about you, it's so weird. I'm like, where you guys are getting this from? And Jimmy Dore put some of my tweets. Yeah, the G Hive. Yeah, they love doing that. They were saying, "Oh, Nick support Jimmy Dore and the Boogaloo Boys." Like, what? When I ever chime in on this shit? And
Yeah,
then
smeared.
and
You were
then
smeared
Jimmy.
by
Who the
association.
Bugaboo Boys were yesterday.
Yeah, I didn't even know who they was. Like, I don't care about that shit. I never follow that. Like, we got KKK here in my area. Like, Bugler Boys never been on my radar. They never been a threat to me personally. So I'm like, I don't know who they are. I don't care. I literally said, I'm like, whatever. Just work. If they want to work with me on my terms, this is all I said. I said, if you have someone who wanted to work with me on my terms, I don't give a fuck. And then people were like, oh, niggas a Boogaloo Boy supporter. I mean, not a lot of people. It's a G hive. Like,
But
that's
that's the lack of revolutionary discipline that I'm talking about. You're just basically giving examples of it that you just say anything and it just derails the whole movement. You can't do that with a revolution. Like you can't be derailed or to be a useless or a fruitless revolution. And that's why to me we're not ready. And we have some of these leftist groups that's not helping the situation. Put it this way: imagine having the power. You said about AOC. Imagine if she was tweeting. How I phrase the question is: imagine having the power to create or get the ball rolling, like really rolling on general strike, and you don't take advantage of that. That's to me is the thing. Is the critique I would have for AOC is that, and Bernie Sanders to be quite frank with you, is that you have the power. Like literally, Bernie Sanders and AOC have the power, have the gravitas that they can literally get a general strike.
Yeah, exactly.
They can do that, and they're just choosing not to do it, wanted us to go through the normal channels when the normal channels is nothing but incrementalism. Look at, we've been working on getting this voting thing right for 200 plus years. How is it we still having voting problems?
Right.
You get what I'm saying? Like it's a incrementalism is the side dish to capitalism, especially predatory capitalism. It gives the illusion that you're doing something. Black people have been getting freed for how many hundreds of years? You get what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, and that was my point.
Well, Biden just freed us again.
Ever to exist is getting Black people out of oppression in the United States. That's the longest incrementalism that has been going on.
I like the point you made too, Compton, about how we're not ready as a movement. And like if you look at it 100 years ago during the Great Depression, I was in the 1940s with the bonus marches from those who came back from World War I. They were poor because of the Great Depression. They wanted to get their bonus early to feed their family. You know, they had what you would, the word you used, like revolutionary patience or something like that. Like they were able to wait it out way longer. I mean, they had their strikes for like 90 days or more most of the time. So they were able to pump the brakes. Like we can't have a strike for longer than a week now. So that's
because everybody want to go home and look at each other on the news and see themselves on TV. They don't want to stay out there.
That's why the pain is not there yet. There's pain, but the pain has not reached the threshold to where liberals are going to say, okay, I was down with the DNC, but this shit is fucked up. Not this no more. Like until we've reached there, which I believe we're on our way going there. Until we reach that, it takes a leader. So I'm saying it needs to be, one or the other. Without that leader galvanizing us, without that AOC, then the way that we're going to do it is by the pain level has to be increased.
I think there's two parts to that, because I do agree with you saying that we don't feel the pain yet. I'm kind of the opposite side of the spectrum. I'm saying our pain tolerance isn't that high. Like if you look at it in the field today, like we're just, okay, this hurts, ow, 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 Democrats save us. You know, we don't want to feel the pain because if you look at our forefathers, you know, I've done research in the 1930s. I mean, there were families back then that killed their dog to feed their family. They were homeless. I mean, cold, had no money, starting from scratch. I mean, back then, if you were upper middle class and you lost your money in the stock market, you were on the streets. You were just like someone who was dirt poor.
Mhm.
So if you look at today, even though we've made some changes economically, socially, in terms of our construct, it's gotten better. It actually allowed our pain tolerance to be lower and allowed us to be more manipulated by the establishment forces.
Mhm.
So I do believe that yes, I want things to get better, but our pain tolerance and how we look at these situations is still far too low.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
It's just
absolutely. Go ahead, Jay. I'll let Jay chime in, and I'm gonna change gears for our last segment here.
okay. It's just like I kind of tell this, especially to women who are dealing with douchebag men. When you've had enough, you truly had enough.
Hmm.
That's when you make a change. Um, the left, the right, some liberals, nobody's had truly enough. There are many people that are suffering, but it's not to a critical mass where they're like, "That's it, I'm hitting the street." Um, the enough point was when George Floyd was killed. That was a point for a critical mass, and we actually had an opportunity to carry that over into a general strike. Of course, you had somebody with some huge influence, case in point, LeBron James. And then what happened? The movement
Obama.
killer, aka Obama, came in with a scythe
Yep.
and killed them and killed the movement before it even begun. So yes, I completely agree. We need someone who has a huge popular following. And there are some people who I would love to lead the charge, but they're just not popular enough.
Mhm.
The only two people who I can think of really are Bernie Sanders and AOC to lead that charge to say, okay, we need a general strike. But unfortunately, and this is something that a lot of people have to get through their heads, and it's hard to accept, but Bernie is establishment. It just is what it is. He's been there for 40 years. He's been in the government for that long. So the thing is that yes, we have a sympathetic voice within the government, but like Compton said, he's he's a politician, and we can't have politicians lead the movement. It has to be somebody on the outside. So seeing that Bernie Sanders, is as popular as he is, I wish he could do it, but we have to have somebody who is huge and popular that's
Trustworthy.
outside of the realm of politics.
Absolutely,
Lead the charge.
absolutely. And
I feel like
to wrap
I
up,
feel like Bernie sometimes confuses me. You know, like did you truly disagree with Hillary, or is it because you didn't like Hillary? Did you truly disagree with Biden, or is it because now you actually like Biden? You know, because if you look at it now, Biden's actually to the right of Hillary. At least Hillary said, "Hey, drop Medicare to 55." Biden said 60, and now it's like, "Eh, we're not gonna do shit."